Hi everyone, my name is Angelica, and today I wanted to do a quick video and just kind of talk about my experience dealing with chronic pain and health issues. And so I figured that there might be a lot of people that are struggling with this, specifically moms, and so I wanted to share what God has been sharing with me during this time, and just what I've learned in this season. I know that when I was barely starting this journey, I would look for these kinds of videos that were, made by Christian women or by moms that were, encouraging people, or I don't know. Frankly, I don't know what I was looking for, but I wanted to at least hear from people that were going through the same thing as myself. And so I couldn't really find much of that. And that's why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because if you are a Christian woman, or maybe not even Christian, but want to hear a Christian perspective, and you're feeling alone and hopeless and lost in this journey, that's what I'm here for, and that's what I'm trying to do with this video. So I don't know how long this will be. I don't know kind of what I'm going to be touching on necessarily, but I wanted to share my story and just put my experience out there and share with y'all what God has been teaching me and ministering to me during this time. So I'll start from the beginning. About a year ago, I would say, slightly over a year ago, I started dealing with some pretty intense knee pain, along with other types of joint pains, I'm assuming related to that primary knee pain, but essentially that was my biggest issue. It was this debilitating knee pain that would put me out for days at a time, and I'd have to kind of do nothing and recover for a few days before I was able to kind of function normally again. And it was just devastating, not just because of the lack of independence and, mobility, but because of all of that, kind of tagged onto my just regular experience of being a mom of two. One of the things I struggled with a lot was just kind of seeing the house fall apart a little bit and not be able to do anything because I was literally just having to lay down. I could not put any weight on my knee at all. And then also having to mother during that time, I think, was really, really challenging, because when you're feeling good, it's easier to kind of regulate your emotions. It's easier to think rightly. But when you're in pain, everything is kind of exacerbated. It's worse. And maybe something that you would be able to look past or not really focus on when you're feeling good, it's something that, kind of you're not able to ignore when you are feeling terrible, or that you react poorly to when you're feeling bad. So, like I said, I started with this knee pain. I eventually found out, what the diagnosis was, and it turned out to be some kind of defect that I was born with in my knee anatomy, and I don't want to focus too much on the details of that, but because I feel like it's not that important. But all that to say that it is the kind of thing that you either kind of get surgery for or you live with for the rest of your life. And so it's been very sobering to have to deal with this for, going over a year now. And of course, there's the hope that one day this could go away, but it hasn't. And there are better days, there are worse days, but it just has taken such a toll on me. The mere fact of not being able to move, the fact that I can't work out like I used to, you can't just go on a walk after a hard day, or in the middle of a hard day, to kind of clear your mind and reset yourself. It just has been brutal. And I don't think a lot of people understand what it's like to live in pain 24/7, or live in pain for the majority of the time. I think it's easy to say, like, oh, I know you're feeling bad, but, X, Y, and Z. It's another thing completely to be living in pain all the time. And to that, I think the most important thing that I wanted to talk about is how that affects your ability to be a Christ-like mother. That was one of the things that I started struggling with almost immediately. Something I briefly touched on was that idea of like not being able to go on a walk to clear your mind and reset yourself, which sounds like such a simple thing, but a lot of moms do that. Like, a lot of moms work out to be in a better mental state, to be able to, kind of be more patient and be in a better mood to deal with the kids, which I think is great. It's an amazing option that a lot of moms have. But when you do have that taken away, and it's just the raw, real emotions of everyday life, it makes for some wonderful refining, I would say. I didn't realize how many areas of my life were still under construction, if you will, as a Christian, until I started dealing with all these health issues. Because as a, parenthesis, I dealt with the knee pain, but I've also had other issues kind of caused by the knee pain, other kind of joint problems and that kind of thing that added on to everything. So instead of becoming, slightly easier, in some ways more things have added on. But what I'm trying to say is that at the beginning of this journey, I was just so reluctant to be worked on by God in this area. I wanted to feel better, and I wanted healing, and I prayed for healing for so long. I still do, I guess. But towards the beginning of the journey, it was almost like a daily thing that I would pray, God, please heal me. Like, I'm in so much pain. I am so discontent, unhappy, tired. I can't, be a mother like you've asked me to be under these conditions. I can't be my best if I don't, feel good, if I can't work out, if I'm tired of, X, Y, and Z. Valid reasons and valid prayers that I think are good, to be prayed. Of course, we should run to our Father when we're struggling, when we're feeling bad. But I guess our initial reaction is always like, please take this away from me. And so God hasn't taken this away from me. Like I said, in some ways I've learned to deal with the pain better. But I can't say like, oh, like this has gone away. That's not the case. And so what I have realized during this time is that God gives us grace for every season that we're in. And that sounds like a nice cliche or a nice little phrase to hear, but truly, God will give us grace. And that actually has been my prayer. That has been what my prayer has turned into as of late. On the really bad days where I, wake up and immediately I'm like, okay, great. It's going to be one of those days. I pray, God, would you give me the grace to get through this morning? And then I pray again, would you give me the grace to get through, X, Y, and Z, to get through dinner, to get through bedtime, to get through, bath time, whatever it is that I can't seem to think of myself getting through. That's what I pray now. And God has been very kind in showing me and providing that grace to get through that day, through that season, through that moment. And in talking about that grace, the verse that comes to mind is, where God talks about the fact that his power is perfected in our weakness. I think our society and just in general as human beings, we put so much focus on being healthy, on being strong, on being resilient, on not having to depend on anybody. And I think through our weakness, not only do we see, our own fragility, but we also see God's power. Not that we don't know, or not that we don't realize that God is powerful, but sometimes we think of God's power in the context of like these big miraculous healings, or I don't know, these amazing stories of people's circumstances being changed overnight. But we don't necessarily think of God's power in the sense of getting us through another day. And so I think that's something that God has revealed to me, that his power is perfected in our weakness. And speaking of relying on others, I think we all have that tendency to not want to rely on others, to want to be independent. And we can see that when we are not doing well health-wise, God kind of opens our eyes to maybe some pride that is kind of hiding in there under the guise of independence or self-reliance or whatever. But, we come to terms with the fact that, like, I actually don't want help because I want to do it all on my own, because I want to feel that I'm strong by myself, and that I can, do things by myself. And so this has been a season where God has allowed me to rely on others as well, and to welcome their help. And I think he's just perfecting and chiseling my character. It feels very painful because nobody likes to go through pain, especially physical. Well, I guess any pain of any kind, but physical pain is there, and it is a reminder, a constant reminder that does not go away. And so we want to avoid it, we want to push it away, we want to find solutions, but sometimes God says no to our prayers of healing, and God says no to, or maybe not yet, to our desires to be made healthy again. And we get to trust God in that too. And I think, like I mentioned before, when our prayers start changing from, please take the situation away, to like, God, how can I glorify you in this situation? And how can you walk with me today in this moment to get through the situation? I think God is pleased with that. Yeah, and so I wanted to share a little bit of the insight that I have gained, which is not very much at all, but just a little bit of what I've been learning during the season. And I would love to hear from other women or other moms that are perhaps going through similar situations. And yeah, that's essentially it.